wants to be king!
About a week ago, I saw this video of this disrespectful girl just basically taking a piss on her dad's grave. She gave what she no doubt thought that was this poetry slam eulogy, which was just basically tearing the man down for everything in her perception that he was not. And it was really hard to watch it. It was hard to listen to it. I don't know anything about these people, but I have to think that much of what this young girl was puking up on this podium was just a result of the indoctrination that she has received for her entire life. And not at the hands of this man that wasn't there to defend himself, but the hands of part of her family and her peers for sure. And as I listened to it, while the majority of my soul shuddered, a lot of my history, my past, I had a different perspective of how and why she feels the way she does. And I don't think it really has a whole hell of a lot to do with her dad, but it has to do with the community that she's fighting so hard to be a part of. Again, I don't know anything about this man, but in watching the video that I watched, I saw where she, in her own weak way, tried to retract some of the things that she said by stating that the man did a lot of good stuff in his life. And I think that was her soul giving her the first wrestling of the truth. She's trying to appease a mob of idiots, educated idiots. And she threw her father on the sacrificial table. And I have no doubt that in time, because the internet doesn't forgive, she will grow to regret that. But in looking at her experience, I think it's important, the reason why I'm bringing this up, I think it's important to shine a light on the truth, at least what I believe to be the truth about how and why she got to be in that position. When all of this, when this cry for deity was taken up, I made a satirical video. Old Frederick Beaumont talked about the HBO special where all these barely black people were speaking about racism and how hard it was for them. And in just watching the trailer, I didn't waste any of my time watching the series, but just watching the trailer, I noticed a lot of these people that were the main, the main big mouths of it they're bright-skinned people. And I know personally in America, growing up in the 70s, my experience being a zebra was drastically different than my brothers who were darker, had more melanation in their skin. No doubt about it, we had a drastically different experience. I saw it in the way that people who valued race over someone's character, the way that they looked at us, the way that they treated us. But it wasn't the people that were other races that were the problem. It was my peers. And growing up in the 70s, we were suffering the recoil of all of the madness that took part in the 60s. And I think there was a lot of leftover animosity and hatred, if you will, because in the 60s, just like today, there was something that was disrupted in the communities and the tensions flared back up. And we're doing the same thing again today. We're doing the same thing, and these ideologies continue to repeat. And the reason why I can relate to where this young dummy comes from is because I struggled with the same desperate seeking to fit in, being half white and half black. I wasn't always accepted by the black side, and on the white side was the same situation. And so I always found myself looking for my footing until I realized that I didn't give a shit. But until that point, it was a struggle. And there was a point in my life when I was a teenager in my early 20s, when I was doing the most ignorant shit in my life, I would do the most wild shit. I would try to escalate my craziness to a level that exceeded the brothers that I hung out with, and it was all to try to be accepted as that crazy nigga, because that was what was real. That was what was respected for some stupid reason. And so I did a lot of things and believed a lot of dumb shit and went along with things that maybe I didn't exactly agree with or believe in, simply to be accepted by a group that made up half of my identity. And so I dealt with that struggle. I got rushed by a black fraternity and a white fraternity when I was in college, and there was a drastic difference in experiences. As a matter of fact, that experience and looking at that was what made me just step away from this whole group game and started looking for motherfuckers that were just real and dealing with reality instead of lumping myself in with a group of people just so I belonged. That takes someone to be a critical thinker and be able to look at things and think for themselves. But when you go to college, when you're young, you're stupid, and you do what you have to do to get along, to go along. That's the way that it goes. And I think that with this young girl, looking at her, she's a bright-skinned girl. She's pretty. She comes from a family of means. There's no question in my mind that if there was any Shaniquas at that girl's school, she felt castigated by them, until she started speaking this narrative of victimhood and my dad's a racist and he's a loser and I'm glad he's dead because he didn't see eye to eye and he wouldn't share my philosophy of victimhood and loserdom because he didn't do that. This stuff comes from her peers. It doesn't come from her heart. I think that a lot of these youngsters that are being indoctrinated with this throwback misery from the past, it's extremely sad because very little of them have experienced racism in a true form. When you are truly surrounded by someone or in the presence of somebody who is a racist, somebody who looks at you as less than, it's not the move to go to this person's funeral and give a presentation to bring attention to yourself or to your cause or whatever dumb shit that this girl thought she was going to accomplish. I don't think her father was a racist. I think that her friends are racist. I think that the people she surrounds herself with are this very thing that she tried to project on this man post-mortem. This is, in my opinion, how you handle growing up in this type of situation. I've said before, I'm a zebra, half black and half white. And when I was a kid, my grandfather on my mom's side was a German man, and he had a big problem with my mom's decision to lay up with black folks and have a bunch of kids with him. He moved his family away from California to Texas to get away from the decisions that my mom made. And when my mom had nowhere else to run and brought us to Texas, we arrived to a family that didn't want my mom around and most definitely didn't want us around. They had a dog named Nigger, a female dog. So as a 10-year-old kid, we would go to my grandparents' house and play with this dog named Nigger. When my grandfather died, the whole family got together and they were going to mourn his greatness, mourn his loss. And instead of going to this man's funeral and sharing my feelings or ruining the ceremony for those people who loved him, I simply didn't go. That's how you handle these things. This man wasn't a racist. This little girl has just surrounded herself at a school full of them that have taught her to think this way, that have taught her to hate half of who she is. And to me, this is the true tragedy of this story of this entitled little brat. Out.